Uh, so, yeah, I'm sick of certain reactions here, which I think are pertinent to the I want downloadable suicide aspect in Doppelhurst. I don't think it is anything that a biphobe can appreciate. For Christians, which I'll show in a moment, what they're doing is taking a suicide murder and twisting their minds so that a suicide murder is a gift to them, and a voluntary death, and a gift to them for them to eat in wafer form. There is no interpretation of Mark chapter 12 where you say that Jesus was arrested in any fairness. The accusatory question is, are you the king of the Jews? That was an out of class question to ask a member of a conquered people. There were no duchess, no Duke, Duchess of the Jews, no Princess of the Jews, no Queen of the Jews, no any kind of royal or monarch, political system going on amongst the Jews. So to have asked him, do you think you're the better than slaves would have been a more appropriate question to commence an interrogation. But saying, are you the king of the Jews, is like he's transferred a rank that only applied to his kingdom, which believe in bloodline purity through the practice of incest. We know that bloodline purity in the Bible can't mean that they had pathology labs, because they didn't. They had no means to test blood purity. If you had a wound, your neighbor could spit in your wound, and it was thought to be medicinal to help you heal. So bloodline purity is yet stated throughout the Bible in so many places, and the only thing it could have meant was the king is the king. A king of a particular kingdom is choosing who marries who and forcefully wedding them. And this can explain some of the psychosexual angst that is reflected in the story of Genesis. Talked about, a prince forcefully married to his cousin. He hates getting blowjobs from her, so he points his rib cage forward so he can't look at them, look at his blowjobs. And then he comes up with a story to tell the scribe that women were created from a removed rib. But going back to Mark 12, there's no confession either. Jesus doesn't say yes or no, and he couldn't have possibly, in all fairness, he couldn't have been expected to have answered the question with a yes or a no. Because the question, are you the king of the Jews? You don't conquer a bunch of people and then apply the political system that is alienated from them by the kingdom that's conquered these people, and then think that they're running the same political system. Like that's an inbreeder's way of thinking, It's like it's like a trailer park war where someone in some van goes to the other van and accuses them of fucking everyone in their van. It's just a retarded accusatory question. Are you the king of the Jews? And he says, well, you said it. Not even, well, you asked me. So he was probably stressed because he was looking for what was the possible appropriate answer to say. But he neither says yes nor no. it can't be argued that Jesus was goading them on in any way, because the power to accuse was on the side of this monarch, and whomever they would dispatch would be dispatched with instructions to effect an accusation, and the accusation would have been decided by a superior and told to whomever they dispatched. So if it came from someone within the kingdom of a higher rank, then that's even more inbred than we thought. If it was an accusatory question thought of by the dispatched person himself, well then, shame on him for poorly representing his kingdom. Either way, if they're the words that are used, and then you grab someone and go proceed to execute them, this man's been found guilty of being the king of the Jews. It's tremendously inbred because, yeah, like I said, they didn't have that political system in place. So what goes on is the story would bring shame onto the kingdom that had killed him. So 70% of Mark is repeated in, I think, Matthew, and 90% is repeated in Luke. 10 to 15 years later than when the Gospel of Mark is written, about 80, 70. So whomever wrote St. Matthew's and St. Luke's Gospels did so while holding a copy of the Gospel of Mark, each of them. And they simply add additional narrative where you find Jesus doing two things. Saying things that are more politically controversial, like that borderline on anarchy and anti-disestablishmentarianism. You find him talking more like that, more about like hate and like riotry, and then you find more writings of him defying the laws of physics. More miracle stories are added. There are contradictory points at the death of Jesus in when you compare Matthew to Luke. In one of them, he's saying, my father, why hast thou forsaken me?" And his last words are a plea of despair. And then in Matthew's gospel, he's saying, into thy hands I commit my spirit. And it sounds more or less consensual, that he's dying. So then they have in 95 AD, the Gospel of John. You have him flying in from the start. In the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and then the Word became flesh. John chapter 1, verse 1. And Jesus is known to himself to be God incarnate. Now, what the whole saga would establish politically is that no one would turn back at that kingdom and say, "You executed someone wrongfully." And that was, I think, the ultimate agenda, because if you think back then, it would have been a case of, does your family want to die, or do you want to be a scribe? If you want to be a scribe, do you want to write about this? And it's very easy now for us to track and compare stories in paganism, pagan religions, and see that they're inserted into Jesus' story. So, is it designed to confuse you that in Matthew and Luke, the last words are of complete different sentiment and sensibility? And then in the Gospel of John, he's God from the start and ready there to die Okay, mofos. So here is what I was explaining before. You've got your year 70 CE Mark. The charge: Are you the king of the Jews? The reply: Well, you said it. It's neither a yes nor a no. But I have explained that both the question was inappropriate to have been asked of him, and that the reply was not an endorsement of any desire to be killed. So, leaving us with the crucifixion being a murder-suicide in Mark's Gospel. Depending on which Bible you pick, you will find that the resurrection is either not in Mark's Gospel at all, that there's no rising from the dead, or you will find that it's there and there are footnotes saying not found in the oldest and best manuscripts. So now here we have Matthew and Luke, 80 to 85 Common Era, and both of the authors, whether their names were Matthew and Luke or not, and indeed St. Mark's, it's indisputable amongst academics that the manuscript of the Gospel of Mark was in possession of this author and this author. As when you study and compare with concordances in Koine Greek, it could not have been that equal witnesses were standing together and all wrote the exact same perspectives at certain moments in the exact same choice of words. That does not happen in journalism today. Nonetheless, chunks of Mark's appears, 70 to 90% of it, repeated verbatim in either Matthew or Luke, conversely, 70 to 90 in one or the other. Then we get to John's. John's is where Jesus dies of a volitional gesture foreseen by him on a socio-political level. And it's a gift. And so what's achieved here is that a suicide murder then becomes a human sacrifice gift. He died for you, died for your sins. There's confusion, like I said, when you compare Matthew and Luke at Jesus' last words, when you reach that point, because one of them, as I said, is the plea, my Father, why hast thou forsaken me? And those are his last words in one of them. And then in the other one, it's like, Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit. And so he's been gestural. So the contrast of the two, I suppose, amongst believers is to generate the hope that his death was for some sort of divine purpose. And that's exactly what the Gospel of St. John, written... Okay, so written in 95 AD. Can't find that other fucking texter. Oh, there it is. Sick. Yeah, St. John's, written in 95 AD. So anybody who says that they are Christian and that they are cramming these four Gospels together into some sort of consolidated unilateral understanding, if they are a cop, they are likely to inspect someone's assets, represent that they died of their own want, when they could have been killed, and not know the difference, on account of the fact that there is no way to unilaterally consolidate these four Gospels. There's no way for a believer to say, I believe in all four, and to attempt to, and which is to be a committed Christian, is to attempt to solve and consolidate an impossible puzzle. And in the meantime, you're liable to do so much harm because, everything from not speaking to a person properly, not comprehending responses properly, leading you to think, oh, well, this person is guilty for something. The sins of the world, wow, it could be any. Let's take our fucking pick. Died for the sins of the world. So absolutely any kind of problem in the world, you pick your person. No, yeah. So that's that. So I will state, and for the last time, that you cannot be a Christian without being a biphobe. It's impossible. You cannot be a Christian and say, oh, I'll help the bisexual community, because it would at least require you to be opposed to Jesus' death. And every ceremony that you practice is celebratory of Jesus' death as a gift, which so to us is like a 4 times insult. So don't go when I'm watching art here, and don't go thinking that amongst the bisexual community what the I1 downloadable suicide, or any part of Doppelhurst for that matter, is about. You don't even know that your own Savior saved you. So you don't know a cover-up. See, now all of this makes sense if you want to think about a kingdom preserving, ensuring that its reputation is maintained as never guilty of having executed the person on wrongful grounds. So if you want motive for why you have these Gospels presented this way, the gist is that you're supposed to understand, well, the kingdom doesn't want liability for executing someone on for the wrong reasons. Whilst many of us respect and like Jesus, we are not interested in his death, and we're certainly not interested in this Mark 12 accosting. Are you Willy Wonka? Well, you have a chocolate factory. It's not a proper accusation, and it's not a fair accusation. And the response that was given was more polite to the idiot from the Kingdom's Dispatch than he deserved, given that his rank and title would have had him smarter, you would think, to ask a more appropriate accusatory question pending the interest in an execution. Thank you.